From the Fathead Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Oh, there you are, sweet Jesus. Come back to Papa.
The highs and lows, are just can be pretty brutal, that place. But, I think that's what is so fun about it is the challenges.
I saw Will Power smack the wall out of 4 with 10 to go. He's still going.
Dixon?
No. Connor.
Oh, Connor, yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, Connor, and, you got to pick a direction, pal, and I'll stick with you.
Oh, I don't know. You lose track about halfway through.
I go to move when it's full of methanol. Both of them are full of methanol. Big bang. I turn around and the glasses are smoking. And he goes, whoa, good thing you gave me those, right?
I'm Scott Dixon.
I'm Antron Brown.
Hey, I'm Ron Cap.
I'm Connor Daly.
I'm James Hinchcliffe.
Hey guys, this is Matt Hagan, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Skinny. We have another great guest coming your way. I'm Ken Stout. That's Rico Elmore. Michael Young is back behind the controls, as always.
What's up, peeps?
And we have a producer standing right alongside him to keep him honest today. Mr. Stephen Grind is with us as well. We have a full house for sure, and looking forward to this one. We've got a guy in the studio that's as tough as they come. How about a 3-time NHRA funny car champ? Mr. Matt Hagan has taken some time out in his busy schedule to come in here. Drove for Don Schumacher, of course, one of the biggest names in the business for many, many years, better part of 14 years or so, and now with some guy named Tony Stewart.
Yeah, who is that guy, right?
Yeah. Pretty cool run, man, and you've had a lot of success. I know it's come with a lot of hard work, and we're going to pick your brain about that, but congratulations on where you're at.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Glad to be here with you guys today, and, it's early to be in here in Indy, but, it's like one of those things. You get in here, you start knocking some stuff out, doing some stuff. We got a lot of Dodge stuff going on, so glad we had some time to get in here with you guys.
This show being shot prior to the U.S. Nationals, which you've had good success at, of course. Qualified number 1 here, I think, 5 times?
Yeah, we've had a pretty good run at it most of the time here. The only time I won it, I was so sick I didn't get to enjoy it. It actually, in the finals, I pulled the parachute and snot hit my visor, right? I was that sick, you know what I mean? And, all I wanted to do was just go home. I mean, and it's one of our biggest races of the year, and I would just, everybody's like, let's go celebrate. And I was just like, I just want, a pillow and a bed, you know what I mean? And I felt so bad. But back then, all the points go with the driver. So no matter what, you try to crawl in the car, whether you're, got stomach problems or you're sick or you flu or whatever. It's just like you got to suit up and drive. And it was probably, I was like, God is punishing me right now. I did something bad. I don't know what I did, but it was bad. I just wanted to go home, But we turned 4 win lights on, and and Indy's one of those things where it's such a big event, because you have all the guys that come out from their families to the track people and their wives, and so it's a crazy chaotic event, and it's stretched out pretty long. So there's so much going on. You got to kind of just pump the brakes for a second when you get in the car and take a deep breath and get focused and do what you're supposed to do up there. But it can be hectic, man. I mean, it gets pretty wild,
That's a whole new meaning of snot rocket right there.
Yeah.
through my head sock, you know what I mean? That's another thing. It's like I had a head sock on, and it came through my head sock and hit my visor. I was like, that's a first,
That's some negative G's right there.
Yeah, that's serious negative G's.
I could see a crew member. How'd you get a bug to hit the windshield on the inside? I just don't understand it. So that wasn't a bug.
Yeah.
That's funny stuff, man. Hey, you weren't always at this level, and throughout doing a little bit of homework on you, I was very surprised to find out how mechanical you were back in your younger days. But we want to pick your brain and find out how you got going as a young man, as a boy, sure. I guess, what intrigued you to get inside of this sport?
Honestly, it never really followed drag racing growing up. I had a family friend, Kenny Page. He had a 69 Dart that had it was just a gear jammer, man. It stood on the back bumper. He pulled second gear looking at blue sky, and he brought me out to the track, and he's like, hey kid, he worked with my dad in the dealerships and stuff, and he's like, come on with me, let's go. I'm going to show you something today. And he let me air the tires up and dial in on, and I watched that car run, and I was just like, holy crap, that is cool. You know what I mean? Like that's badass, and so I just kind of fell in love with it. And I was 13 years old at the time, and basically he drugged me around and stuff, and I went to Bristol for my first nitro, deal, and I was like, oh my God, what is that? You know what I mean? And just kind of never dreamed of ever being in one, but I had a 4-wheeler, and so, obviously I wasn't old enough to have a license, but they had these 4-wheeler drag races on Friday nights, and you could just bring your quads in, and you didn't have to have a license or anything. You just sign up and sign the waiver, and had your parents sign the waiver, and then you could race them. And so beginner's luck or what, I don't know, but I went to the final. I didn't win, but my first time I won $130, in a deal, and I was just like, I can make money doing this. I was like, I'm done, and so then turned 16 and started. My dad has a car lot, and I started stealing all these cars off of his used car lot and running them up there, and I'd hang the trannies out of them, and tires would be bald. And he's like, what is going on, And so I was like, yeah, well, I've been borrowing some cars off the lot, And
So it's less expensive for him.
That's how he became
do what you're doing
mechanical.
now.
Dad's like, you can take it right back to the shop and fix it now.
Right, yeah. So did that, and he was like, no, we're not going to do this. So he helped me get my first race car, and it was an old Firebird, and it had a 632 Eagle motor in it with 2 systems of nitrous on it, and it looked like someone cut their kid's swing set up and put it together. I mean, it was rough, right? Yeah.
Oh, boy.
But
Shot.
back then, I was like, this thing is amazing. But anyway, so this guy by the name of Evan Knoll sponsored me. He gave me $600,000 to run a pro mod series in AMS, and basically I was the rookie of the year there. We did really well, and ran pro mod for 6 years for a while, and then Evan calls me up one day, and he's like, hey, I want to. He's had this IHRA Knoll Gas series, and he's like, I need fuel funny cars for my IHRA series, and I said, I don't know if I want to go that fast. I was like, that's crazy, and he's like, well, look, here's $3 million, and we're either going to do this or not, and I'll give it to somebody else. He was already sponsoring 3 or 4 other cars out there in the NHRA side. I think Mike Ashley and Melanie Troxel and some other cars back in the day, and so I was like, sure, okay, well, let's try it. And man, the first run I ever made in one of those cars, I looked like the State Puff Marshmallow Man. Like if there was fire gear, I had it on, because like the night before, guys were talking to me about how they're on fire all the time and what you do, and I was like, I was
Mortified.
Mortified.
Right.
I was breathing so hard that I couldn't see out of my visor, and they were like coming on the radio, and they're like, go. And they're like, go. And I was like, I can't see, And so I finally like flip my visor up and wipe out a little slit to see out of. And I was like, all right, I can see. And I hit the pedal. But sitting there that long, the clutch, it didn't have a stop on it. So I was over center. So the clutch started getting hot. So I nuked the $5,000 clutch out of the car, like my first hit. They gave it back to me in a Ziploc bag and gave me a bill for $5,000, So, but I did it, and I was like, I can do this, and so I run the IHRA series for Evan for, I guess, that year. And then I crossed over to NHRA 2 times. And I had like Paul Smith and Bodie Smith tuning my car. And I qualified for the nationals here, the big go, and I qualified Forrest and Selsley and Tommy Johnson Jr. And Don strolls through my pit, and he's kind of like, who are you, and where'd you come from, and how much money do you have, and so we sat down and talking and chatting, and next thing I know, I'm flying into the Richmond race to sign a contract with Don, and he's like, sell your stuff and come on over here and drive. It was in the time when Selsley was retiring, and he needed a wheelman. And, right place, right time, and, just did well at the U.S. Nationals, and I guess got Don's attention, and, we put one thing together. But that was during 2008 when the recession hit, so I was supposed to drive the Mopar Oakley car, and, the world fell apart, and so then we were trying to piece stuff together, and we had this guy by the name of Rich Battellini that he had brake save, so it's like your third brake light, and you hit the brakes and it blinks.
Yeah,
great
flash.
concept, right? But anyway, we did the trailers up and everything else, and basically the second race, this dude bounced a check, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? So hats off to Don and my dad. They rounded up some money and kept me out there, and we ended up getting more sponsorship and finding it, and the rest is kind of history. It just fell into place with Don for that many years, and runnered up and won some championships, but it's been pretty epic ride so far.
He's very successful at what he does, and he just glazed over some of it. But we're going to dig in a little bit deeper when we come back.
And I got out, and I thought Wilkerson was going to give me a high five, and he was like, that's the stupidest, dumbest driving job I've ever seen. He's like, don't ever do that again.
The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil, keep that engine alive. General Tire. General Tire delivers. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Once again, welcome back to the Skinny. We have Matt Hagan in the studio with us, of course, driving for Tony Stewart Racing at this point here in the 2022 season. He has plenty of people to take care of his car now, but he used to work on his own stuff back in the day. And I know you kind of glazed over it a little bit, but you became very good with a 4-link car. You knew how to set up a car. Tell us about what was it that motivated you to learn all this type of stuff?
Well, obviously motivation is winning, you know, and it's I'll work with Ricky Smith a lot, and Tricky Ricky, man, and that guy is probably one of the
not come any better than that
one
guy.
of the best as far as a pro mod car goes, and I paid him a few bucks here and there to help me set my car up, and learned a lot from Ricky. And you know, it was so much about, you know, the 4-link in the chassis and just the weight of the car and getting these cars down these tracks that I probably shouldn't have had any business being on, you know. But when you can take a high horsepower race car and put a bar in there that will just grip the track and do what it needs to do to get down through there, it was the difference in winning 10 grand and not winning 10 grand, you know, cash, you know. So it's like you learn really, you know, fast how to work on your stuff and set it up and get these cars down these tracks. And you know, it's so funny, I got a scar on my nose from doing bottom end, and I was torquing the rods, and the torque wrench fell off and hit me in my nose, you know. And I come out there, you know, my eyes are watering and everything else, but it's a reminder every time I look in the mirror that I used to work on my own stuff, you know. But and then the fuel stuff, man, I mean, it was, gosh, you know, I feel like I earned my stripes early on in IHRA. I mean, we pretty much won the championship, but lost because of oil down penalties. I was on fire about every other run, and I mean, I blew the steering off of the car, like it just went over and slapped the wall. And I remember one time we pulled a head off, and the crank fell out of the bottom of it, and it was just like the block was in half. I mean, it was honest to goodness. I thought, I was like, man, this dude might end up killing me in this thing, you know. And it's just like when you're on fire that much, you just you learn to deal with it. And that's what's something that it's hard to explain to people, is that, you know, when you're on fire and you can't see and you're taking in all the smoke, and that feeling of, hey man, I might really die in here. It's something you can't explain to someone. That instinctive, like natural instinct to get away from that heat and that fire, it surpasses everything that your mind can tell your body to do. And you freak out, and then you start breathing hard, and you're taking in all this smoke, and you got to learn to hold your breath, and your legs are getting hot, and your hands are starting to blister up, and all this other stuff that people have no idea some of the stuff you go through there, but you have to go through it to get through that, and to have that mindset of the next time when it happens, to know what to do to get yourself out of that situation. But man, my first big fire in Texas when I was IHRA racing, I set myself on fire. Actually, it wasn't my crew chief's fault that time, and I didn't pull the pumps on. So I'd been pro mod racing, and you step off the pedal, or you pull the pump on and step off the pedal. Well, in pro mod, you don't do any of that. So I just forgot to turn the pumps all the way on. Ran it down through there very lean, hung all 8 rods out of it, burnt the car to the ground. And, you know, it was one of my biggest fires I ever had. I couldn't see where I was at. I was on fire. The smoke was everywhere, and I was taking in smoke. And I really thought, I was like, this is not going to end well for me, you know. So after getting through some of that, you know, it's kind of one of those things where you learn, you know, when it does pop or it does have a bad fire under there, kind of what to do and how to get ready for that. But it's just something that, you know, you can go to all these schools like Frank Holly's and stuff, and drivers can tell you what to do, but you have to be in those situations to learn them, you know, and get through them.
So did you go to Frank's?
I did, actually. I went to Frank's, yeah, to get my pro mod license. So when I decided to drive pro mod, I went to Frank's and drove his alcohol funny car. And no, I'm sorry. When I went to Frank's, I was trying to get my fuel funny car license, because then I only had to make 3 runs. And I'd been driving pro mod, so it was a real kind of natural fit, because I was already swapping feet and stuff when in my pro mod car, running a clutch and stuff. And I did some outlaw stuff as well, you know, where we'd rev them up and dump the clutch and different things. So the alcohol funny car was really kind of easy. Like, Frank was trying to get me to buy more runs, you know. He's like, you're not beating my stuff up. He's like, you need to make more runs. I was like, I got to get out of here, man, you know. So it's just one of those things where it was a natural progression for me. But, you know, then stepping into a fuel car, it was just like, oh my God, like my mind couldn't keep up with it. You know what I mean? My first run I ever had in a fuel car, I bought a car from Wilkerson, like turnkey, and it basically was like, hey, like, you know, you got these 3 runs, that's all he's throwing in, and that's what I needed to have my license. So I had to go to the end the last 2 times, you know, And so I got down there, and the first pass, it looked like a snake going down through there. And I was so far behind the car, my mind couldn't keep up with it, you know. And I got out, and I thought Wilkerson was going to give me a high five, and he was like, "That's the stupidest, dumbest driving job I've ever seen." He's like, "Don't ever do that again." And I was just like, I thought I was going to get a high five, you know. And he's like, "That was terrible." Yeah, so he's like, "You hit everything. You wrecked. You just didn't hit anything, you know." But,
you were a wreck, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. It's the second time we've heard that we had Pedregon on the show a week ago, and he said the same thing. He said, even today, he said, when I get in that car, he said, your brain is behind that car. He said, I know what's coming. He said, but you really have to use a lot of instinctive driving because the car is just so fast.
It's moving so fast, and you're never going to be ahead of the car. You're just trying to be with it and feel it and what it's doing. And, you know, now I've had so many runs, I can tell if we're a little soft early or if it, you know, ran good through the 330 or if it's really hauling out the back door when it goes 1-to-1. And, you know, I come back and relay a lot of that stuff to my crew chief, and they're seeing it on the graphs anyway. There's nothing that car does, basically. We have over 50 data loggers on the car. There's nothing that you know, that I can tell them that they're not already seeing. I'm just confirming what they're seeing. But the car is so fast, you know. I mean, the first time I got to the end, I got down there and the safety guys were down there and they're like, "You good?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. I don't know how I got here. You tell me whether I'm good," you know. And so I just saw a bunch of orange cones go by me, and I was like, "That's the last one."
I'm still back there.
Right, yeah, that's the last one. Pull the parachute, you know. So it does take a long time for your mind to slow it down for you. And I would never say it's like super slow-mo, but it's like now I can hear what the motor's doing and what the clutch is doing and when it comes at it, and, you know, and where I'm at on the racetrack and different things like that. But there's still runs I get lost on the racetrack, you know, especially if it's got a hole out and I'm trying to steer it one way and it's dragging me another, and you're still trying to pick up where you're at on the finish line and stuff. And my vision gets really blurry about the middle of the racetrack when the clutch is trying to go 1-to-1. That's when we're actually pulling the most G's on the track, and that's where I have the hardest time. Like when we test and they're like, "Shut it off at half track," I'm like, damn, it's just because it's hard to see half track sometimes. But after half track, your vision clears up, you can see the finish line and stuff like that. But when it's trying to go 1-to-1 and you're pulling all those G's and it's picking the front end up out there and running hard, it gets kind of challenging sometimes to see where you're at.
Great stuff. We have Matt Hagan on the show with us here today. When we come back, we're going to find out if he cheated on us just a little bit. Stay with us.
I was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I've done this," and so we had ESPN there, and they got him on camera sticking his hand up a bull. He was like, "You sure?" And I was like, "No, dude, I've never done that."
Welcome back to the Skinny. Matt Hagan has joined us here on the set, driver for Tony Stewart Racing in the NHRA Funny Car Division. Rumor has it he might have cheated on us just a little bit, but we understand he had to practice and then raise his game by coming on the Skinny. But I heard you went on Mike Rowe's show.
Oh yeah, I was on Mike. I thought you were going to talk about my sunglasses. You know, I was like, we got me over here.
That's between you and Rico. I'm not getting in the middle of that
I'm
one.
loving these lights out. You know, they're great, man. They fit my fat head for sure. You know, but the Rowe show. I mean, you know, what a great guy. You know what I'm saying? And just, you know, everybody knows him from the Dirty Job stuff. So it was really cool to be able to do that. And he's got a foundation where they help kids out with, trades and stuff like that. So they're trying to get, you know, more people into trades and, you know, working with their hands and doing different things like that. So we tried to put one of the stickers on the car and help with their promotion with that kind of stuff.
Very
which,
cool.
kind of cool deal.
He's a good dude, man. What did he know about motorsports?
You know, he did a class with Roy Hill, you know, and
no kidding.
he said he got cussed like everybody else, but
that's the initiation,
right? Yeah, Roy's a rough dude, man. Great guy. I've known Roy for a long time, and but no, he actually got behind the wheel with the pro stock stuff or whatever that he had that Roy offers, and got to experience it. And he was blown away of how fast the cars go in his mind, trying to keep up with it, like what we just talked about, and even on that level, you know. So it just, like I said, it takes time and seat runs to do that. But you know, the thing with Mike, he's just, you know, one of them down to earth, you know, just good dudes, and can relate to a lot of different things after being on that show and doing all kinds of different stuff. So we got to talk some farming, and, you know, actually I had Caps out to my farm, you know, and basically you know, Caps obviously is from California and never been on a farm, and you know, so I was like, you know, we had the vet there, and we were we were sound checking some bulls, you know, and so basically you have to make sure the bulls are fertile before you take them and turn them back out with the cows. And we keep about 45 bulls on the farm, and you know, so it's just kind of one of those things where everything has a bone in it, you know, and you have to reach in there, feel their bone to make sure that, you know, it's not broke or, you know, everything works. And so I got Caps to stick up his hand up a cow, a bull's, you know, and he was like, "You've done this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I've done this." And so we had ESPN there, and they got him on camera sticking his hand up a bull. And he was like, you sure? And I was like, "No, dude, I've never done that." You know? So, he was a good sport about it, though, you know. So it was one of those things where, yeah, you next time you see Caps, ask him about it.
Speaking of Ron Capps, you said he was really a mentor for you, and then also a guy that kind of threw you under the bus a couple times or beat you up a little bit. I mean, ended up being teammates, right?
Yeah, man. Caps has been great to me. I mean, honestly, you know, when I first started at DSR, he was the only one that picked up the phone and called me and he said, "Hey, look, kid, I know you're new. Why don't you come park motorhomes beside me?" He's like, "Let's go eat dinner." He said, "I'll take you to dinner with my family." Just kind of showed me the ropes, you know, and also corrupted me a little bit. You know, Caps like to party a little bit, you know. So we definitely have drank a lot of beer in the motorhome and different things, but it just, you know, Caps is just, I got nothing but great things to say about him, because he's one of those guys that went out of his way when I knew no one out here, and just kind of like made me feel at home, and you know, just a good dude, you know, and he's a great racer, you know what I mean? I never worry about anything when I line up beside a Caps. I know he's going to keep it in his lane, and he's going to, you know, he cracks me up because his reaction times in qualifying are awful. So I'm just like, oh, we didn't got to get up for Caps. And then he'll pull a 050 out of his, you know, on race day. I'm like, well, how do you do that? Because it's like, I can't just go out. I try on my, you know, every
consistent.
Yeah, and
right.
he's like, oh, you know, just do what you do, you know, and so he amazes me like that. I'm just like, so you got to watch him on race day. He'll get up, you know, and he'll pull one out of his butt. But it's like anything, just a good racer, good guy, and glad that we were teammates for a long time. I'm glad that he's got his own team now and he's doing his own thing, and I know that was his dream, you know, to be able to be a team owner and have his dad up there on the start line standing behind him and stuff like that. His mama is just amazing. His mama comes over every time she's there at the track and comes give me a hug, and, you know, just sits beside me and talks and catches up, and she's just a sweetheart, you know what I mean? So definitely got a lot of love there for the Capses.
Yeah, the great story that Antron Brown talked about Caps. Antron's grandmother, she was telling Antron she really, really liked Caps, said it reminded her of Clark Gable.
Oh, yeah.
And Antron's like, I'm Googling Clark Gable. I'm trying to figure out who he's talking about, right? So Caps catches wind of it and tells Antron, he said, you know, I heard she's hot for me. And he said, yeah, Caps, get out of here. He said, you know, you may start calling me granddaddy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Caps told
Antron.
Told Antron.
That's funny.
So then Antron found out that Caps's mother was, you know, was a big fan of Antron's, and Antron went back at him and said, "You're going to start calling me daddy," you know. So it's that nucleus, or that powerhouse it was at Schumacher, you know, and you came through all of it. I mean, they were a force to be reckoned with for years and years before you got there. But then you get there, and, you know, you have Caps, you have Antron, and I mean, just an unbelievable stable of cars.
Yeah, with Beckman and TJ,
Junior,
all those guys, man, they're tough.
And I mean, a lot of times you guys won the championship. TJ was second.
Yeah, and Caps was third.
I mean, and Don has done it all. I mean, you know, from racing the stuff to owning the stuff to building a team to making it unbelievable.
Yeah, even last year, I mean, Caps won and I runner up, you know what I mean? And it just kind of was like, it come down to that last race for us with Alexis. I beat Caps second round, and if I could have just beat Alexis, then it was his game on, you know what I mean? But, you know, we didn't get it done, but you know, a lot of folks were saying, well, you know, when I won the championship, well, the forces weren't out there, and that's why, you know. But, you know, this very last year, you know, forces were there, and they weren't even in the ball game, you know what I mean? So I think that made a statement in itself, you know, being over there at DSR and still being dominant 2 years in a row like that, or multiple years in a row. And, you know, so people can say what they want about Don, but he gave us the parts and pieces that we
Right.
needed to be successful, and left our crew chiefs to do what they wanted to do. I mean, I had no real reason to leave Don's, to be honest with you, and Don always made sure I was in a car and always driving every year, and so it was, for me, it was about trying to do something new with someone new, and no different than I've won championships with multiple crew chiefs. I've had a lot of success and done what we needed to do, but you just want to try something new sometimes.
Yeah.
We have Matt Hagan with us. When we come back, it's not just about racing for him. He's involved in a number of other businesses.
He's like, oh my God. He's like, well, I'm going to go shake everybody's hand I don't like after I've touched all that.
The Skinny is brought to you by Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil, keep that engine alive. Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. Toyota, let's go places. And General Tire delivered.
Welcome back to the Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. That is Rico Elmore. We have Michael Young behind the controls here with us today. And, of course, Matt Hagan sitting alongside. Great to have him in the studio. I've got to ask you about the camaraderie. When you're with Tony Stewart now, of course, things are new and everybody's learning. But as long as you were with Don Schumacher, that team that Rico had talked about in the previous segment, that nucleus, and not just those guys, but the entire field of NHRA competitors in the pro level, you guys are all rubbing shoulders with each other. And to me, that's some of the coolest part of the sport.
Absolutely. Everybody loves everybody out there. Until we pull a helmet on. But it's just, the camaraderie. We just had so much fun together. Like, we're always cutting up and always joking around. And like we were just talking about Antron, and a funny story on Antron. There was this, we were in Bristol, which is kind of like, my town in the woods, and it's kind of, backwoods, rednecks, and stuff like that. And so this guy comes over and he gives Antron a necklace, and he's like, this thing's lucky, and it's like fish wire, and it's just a bone on there. And I knew what it was right away, you know what I mean? And Antron was like, oh, man, this is great. And he's looking at it and, rubbing on it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to rub on it for good luck and stuff, And I pulled Antron to the side. I said, you know what that is, man? And he's like, no, man, I have no idea, And I said, well, that's a raccoon, Peter. I said, they do that around here. They skin them out and boil them off, and they make a necklace. People hang them up in their rear views for good luck, And he was like, what do you mean that's a raccoon, Peter? And I was like, that's a raccoon, man. Like what? He's like, oh my God. He's like, well, I'm gonna go shake everybody's hand I don't like after I've touched all that. Yeah,
that is him, man. We had him on the show when it was a podcast a couple of years ago, and man, that dude has so much energy. He's just a great guy to be around.
Yeah, he is, man. We have a lot of fun, but that's a story from Antron that sticks out. He had no idea, and and people they just do it for good luck. It's an old wise tale kind of thing, and you never know what you're going to get from fans.
I'm with him. I wouldn't have known either, man. I don't know that I've ever seen one of those.
I'd have probably been rubbing on it too.
Yeah, you never know what you get with fans. Fans give you all kinds of wild stuff, but that's what's been great about being out here is our fan engagement and being able to interact with them and do cool stuff, and just the stuff that people go out of their way to be nice and do for you. I guess that's why Force has a museum of stuff to put things in. It's just I don't know what you do with it all sometimes.
I know that Tony, one of Tony's big things, you guys all operate out of the same building out on South Point Circle in Brownsburg, and the thing that I love watching with Tony, it's like him taking on this challenge is much like the way he took on the challenge of being a cup owner, and he was all in. You guys were pretty set coming over. You got Dickie, which is probably one of the best tuners out there on the tour, has been, always will be. And then, you've got the other team that, Neil and those guys, they all had to build it.
Yeah.
It was just kind of start from scratch. But to do all of that work in the off season and come out, and, everybody's like, geez, what's wrong with Leah? She's not. I'm like,
it'll come. It just takes time.
Settle down.
It takes time. It takes laps, and
settle down, kids.
Yeah.
It's coming, And,
and that's what I kept, kind of reiterating to a lot of people that would say that is just like nothing happens overnight, you know, and especially in a fuel car. It takes seat time, it takes runs for the crew chief, it takes building that confidence with each other as a team, and you know, and that's what me and Dickie have done over the last 8 to 10 years. You know, we built a lot of confidence in each other. You know, I mean, he feels like I'm a good leaver, and sometimes he doesn't have to push as hard to get the track, you know, go down the track. And if I can give him 2 on the tree, and he doesn't have to run too harder to win the race, you know, I mean, we can go down the racetrack and race smart a lot of times and different things like that. But that trust is that you earn. Trust is earned. You know, it's not given. And as a team, you have to earn everyone's trust, and they have to earn yours. And you know, and that takes time to do that. You know, and but once it's there, it's a bond that's solid. And you know, like I don't even think about getting in the car whether it's put together right or not. And my guys have saved me so many times of finding like a broke chassis or a piece that's bad or something that would have caused me to crash. You know, and you know, so I really feel like, you know, I trust what they're doing and the time that they take to put the car together and look over it, and that's a confidence, and that's one less thing in my mind. And you know, so having a group together like we've had, you know, it's hard to do because people love to move around, or they get offered more money or this or that, or you know, so it's hard to keep your core guys together, and we've been able to do that for the last, you know, 8 to 10 years with this group, and I think that's why we're always in the hunt. We're always, you know, 1, 2, or 3, and you know, and just right there digging and doing what we need to do, you know, for our sponsors. But it's tough to keep that together and keep it going because people move in different directions a lot of times, and you know, it's a rotating carnival circus out here with NHRA, man. I mean, you got crew guys jumping from, you know, Forces to Iris to Petrogons to wherever, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of, it's chaotic and hectic, but, you know, you got to have a good core there to bring, you know, to train the guys to do what they need to do.
From one extremely successful team owner to another one that is looking to build a legacy in an entirely different sport, and Tony Stewart, we're going to ask him to compare the two when we come back. Stay with us.
And I was like, Tony, this damn thing's gonna be on fire in 2 runs, man. Like, you know, like
nobody's gonna see that at 3:30, man.
Right.
We're having a great time here with Matt Hagan, and some funny stories along the way for sure. Very complex individual over here, not just drag racing, also has a cattle company, also has, is it True Harvest? I believe True Harvest, which is a hemp farm. We're going to touch base on that a little bit, but first I want to ask him about the 2 different team owners, and I'm curious if Tony Stewart has come to you and asked you, you know, what would you guys have done at Schumacher? You were with Schumacher for so long, and I'm sure you picked out the good. You probably picked out the stuff that you thought he could do better, and have gone to Tony with that.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of the things that's different with Tony is Don had so much going on, and Don wasn't very individually involved. I think, you know, there was no one under the car rooting you on, or, you know, kind of like, let's go, let's get you up, and, you know, motivate you as a driver. It was kind of just expected of you to do your job and do what you needed to do to go up there and win. And where Tony, he'll crawl under the car, he's fist bumping you, he's bringing you up. He's a driver, so he understands that adrenaline and what it takes to be up and be ready and be on time and leave on time, and you know, those kind of things and those feelings that you have to just turn on, you know. And you know, so I think that's a huge difference as far as, I think Tony's a very in touch with what a driver would need to do to kind of get up and get ready for that round and for that race. And you know, whereas Don kind of was like, you know, he's around if you need him, but, you know, he's not so much, you know, individual attention kind of thing. So, but, you know, Don always gave us the parts and pieces and anything we needed to win, you know. And like I said, I think Tony has just a little different way of motivating. You know, Don just, he just, you know, expects you to win, and if you don't, he'll tell you what he thinks of you. You know what I mean? And one of those things where sometimes people don't take that motivation the right way. You know, but yeah, like the second year, I quit. Honestly, I couldn't feel the car. You know, I was sneezing a blower off of it, which is very expensive to do, and I couldn't feel it smoking the tires, and it would rev up and blow up, and you know, and Don just laid me out in front of about 25 people, and I was like, man, I've never been talked to like that before ever, you know. And so I quit, and I called my old man, and I was like, hey, what do we owe this guy? What do we do? I'm leaving, you know. And you know, so you know, basically Dad said, well, I said, what do we do? And he said, well, you can come home and sell cars, or you can go ask for your job back. And he said, but, you know, that's your 2 choices. And I said, I was like, well, I guess I better get some thick skin, and I still want to drive a race car for a while, you know. And so I went back and asked Don for my job back, and he was like, hey, look, man, you know, he said, I'm sorry you took it that way, but, you know, that's the way I feel like to motivate people. And he's like, I know you're a good driver and I see what's in you. He's like, I just need to get it out of you some way. And you know, we went on to win the championship that year, you know, and it was just one of those things where, you know, it's just a different way of dealing with someone different, you know, and Don dealing with so many different people and having so many different drivers and so many different crew chiefs and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of was like a kind of, you know, this angle approach of like, you know, boom, 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 you know, get it done, you know, and whereas Tony, I feel like he's a little bit more laid back, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more individual, intentionalized because, you know, we don't have 7 drivers. We don't have 7 crew chiefs, you know, and Tony seems to be very hands-on, you know. It's so funny. I kind of cracked up myself a little bit, but he was out there, you know, and Tony was very, very attention to detail, and there was some bubbles on the vinyl, you know, and he's over there like picking the you know, popping them and making sure they're flat and they look good. And I was like, Tony, this damn thing's gonna be on fire in 2 runs, man. Like, you know, like
nobody's gonna see that at 3:30, man.
Right. I was like, I know this, you know. But he's like, no, man, it all adds up. It's attention to detail. And so I was kind of grinning, but you know, like that's how he is, attention to detail. And he's a great team owner. He's been a great boss to work for. I've been very, very happy to be working for Tony Stewart. You know, just a great guy. He's just one of those dudes that you just want to hang out with. You know what I mean? He just absolutely like, hey man, when we're done racing, let's just go to the bar and have a few beers. You know what I mean? And you know, and I think that's what Tony looks for too. I mean, there's so many people that are kind of, you know, on top of him and, you know, want to talk to him, and, you know, people barking at him at the racetrack, you know, hey, sign this, do this, you know, and the dude's just a good dude, and he just wants to have fun and do him. And, you know, he just he doesn't need someone else up his butt. He just needs someone to hang out with and have fun with and enjoy what he's doing, you know. And that's the thing that I kind of take from Tony is that, you know, the expectation to win is there, and he's going to do whatever it needs, but he's very understanding. When I haven't seen him get hot-headed, or the only thing I saw him come in and really do was we had a crew guy. His grandfather died, and basically he, you know, my crew chief kind of like, well, we don't need to bother Tony with this, and we need to just handle this on our own and see if we can get Josh out to get to his family and different things. And Tony got wind of it, and he come up in the trailer and he's like, I got a bone to pick with you two. And that was my crew chief and my assistant crew chief. And he says, you know, he said, if anything happens on this team, he said, we're family here. He said, I need to be the first one to know about it, so that way if I can help this kid or his dad or his family or anything, he said, I want to be able to do that. He said, so something like this happens, he said, I'm the first to know about it. And he said, we're going to take care of our people, and we're going to do what's right, you know. And so so I was like, it impressed me, you know, to be honest.
And that is a classic Tony Stewart right there.
Yeah, he cares about his people.
Somebody that, I mean, he's a genuine guy, and he does. He gets, I mean, all of you guys get it and to a certain extent, but, I mean, fan to death, you know what I mean? And his private time or personal time with friends and, you know, you guys, us, and things like that, that's things that he cherishes, because you know what? He's got to be switched on like all the time, dealing with people. And
I mean, even when he's eating his dinner, it's like, or breakfast or whatever, people were barking at him at the roast. I was like, guys, this guy is a human being. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a machine that you can just, you know, demand to do something.
Like you throw a quarter in the machine and he goes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, come on.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah, so many different aspects that he's dealt with now and that he understands, and I love the fact that he can bring that to the table, as you said. I mean, being a driver, he understands where you're at, where your head is, and then when he was a driver, what he wanted an owner to do. It's like, an owner, I want an owner to make sure that we have all the right parts and pieces so that I can at least go out here and fight for a win.
Yeah, and he gives us that. I mean, honestly, we have more parts and pieces than we ever had at DSR, and so far he hasn't said no to anything that Dickie wanted. And you know, that's really impressive in today's time and today's economy and everything else. Just to be able to have anything at your fingertips that you need. We have more blower parts and pieces and more cylinder head stuff, and you know, it's definitely not the mentality of do more with less. It's whatever you need to get this done.
When we come back, we're going to find out a little bit more about his hemp farm. You'll be interested in the story. Matt Hagan in the studio.
And I'm on fire and big blow up and the car slapping the wall, and I get over and I get down the other end and I ask the safety guy, like, man, am I still pretty? And he's like, you ain't pretty, but you're going to be all right.
The Skinny is brought to you by General Tire. General Tire delivers. Toyota. Toyota. Let's go places. Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Skinny. We have Matt Hagan with us here today as he's prepping for the U.S. Nationals. Of course, just a few days away. By the time you see this show, it will have already happened. We wish him the best of luck going out there. We're going to shift gears here just a little bit because it has a very special story behind it. And the hemp farm industry has come so far. I really was impressed and actually talking with Jimmy Johnson about it. He has a sponsor that has some of that product as well. And as a spotter for IndyCar, I have to be very, very careful with passing drug tests. And I was surprised that the industry has really developed into some healing properties without getting any of those side effects. You can for sure pass drug tests whenever you're using some of those products. But I want to find out a little bit more about True Harvest and tell us the story of how it all really began, because while it may be sad, I think something very good has come out of it.
Yeah, sometimes when something bad happens in your life, something good comes out of it as well. And, it's tough to say everything happens for a reason, especially when you lose someone. But my brother basically had scoliosis when he was growing up. He had a 90-degree curvature in his spine and just dealt with it, for a long time until it got to the point to where they said, look, you're going to be in a wheelchair or you're going to have surgery. And, and he started having some really compressed disc and bulging disc and different things like that. So he elected to have surgery, ended up putting 9 pounds of titanium in his back to get him straightened up. And before that, his head felt like it was almost 7 pounds heavier than a normal head. So like just the way he was curved and bent over. So anyway, just dealing with a lot of pain all the time and, never could play sports, never could, do anything, just trying to just function and live life, And so elected to have the surgery, and basically they had him open for 9 hours on the table doing all this. Every rib had a piece of titanium going to his spine, and so got through the surgery, but got on with a pain management doctor and started these opioids and oxycontins, and so. Basically, this lady, the doctor down there in Roanoke, she was giving him a dose that was high enough for a terminal ill cancer patient, basically, and so way too much, and obviously he got very hooked on him, and got to the point where it's like, Kyle, what are you doing? This is going to kill you, and he's like, I can't live with it, can't live without it, and basically within 3 years I watched oxycontins kill my brother. He went to bed and never woke up. He by laying around and being kind of on opioids end up with pneumonia in his lungs. Well, then the pneumonia on top of the oxycontins, like I said, just kind of drowned his lungs and shut his lungs down, and came over he was living with my mom and dad, and my mom calls me and she's like, this ain't good. And so I get over there and they're filling him for an Narcan, and he's all curled up on the floor and blue and, just devastating, and just a really, really tough day for my family. And, but, one of those things you're going like, how did this happen? And honestly, the doctor, she just pled guilty, ended up with 9 years in prison. And she killed 2 other people as well, So she was looking at 27 years, and if she didn't plead guilty, so ended up pleading guilty. And so at least, that part of it was like she's not being a doctor and not handing out that type of medication anymore. And so you kind of feel good about that. But it really made me look into going like, how do we help people, with their pain management and different things without them being so physically addicted to something, and I was really mad at my brother for a long time because I was like, why can't you just quit it? I've never been addicted to anything in my life. You drink recreationally and did whatever, but it's like, how do you get this addicted to something? And after he died, I really learned why he was so physically addicted to it and mentally addicted to it, because opioids don't allow you to produce dopamine, which allows you to feel good and to do things and get up and have drive to work and do other things. And I've been very, very blessed in my life. And if I wanted to go over here and open up a 7-Eleven tomorrow, my old man would be like, why? But okay, let's break ground on it. You know what I mean? But like, opportunity is limitless with my dad and my family and stuff, and what he's been able to do with his businesses and stuff. And so Kyle, he just always just wanted to kind of like just sit around and be on Oxycontin. And so anyway, this deal passed where you could grow, CBD and hemp, and I really did a lot of research on it. And I was like, man, this is great. I said, I don't think it's going to be the cure-all be-all, but if we can get people, help them get through the day, or help them sleep through the night, or help deal with pain and it not be physically addictive, or they get the psychoactive side of things out of it, it's going to be a great thing, and unbelievable now how many people that email me like, I'm going through chemo and this is helping with my pain and I get to eat again, and, or people with restless leg syndrome. I mean, the plant itself on you know, all of the cannabinoids that are in it, it's unbelievable, you know, how your body, you know, the receptors in your body absorb that stuff and what it does for you. And, you know, and it's just kind of one of those things where, you know, I think people, when they get really good CBD, there's a lot of fake stuff out there now because it's not really regulated, you know, as far as government goes. But if they get really good CBD and they stick with it over a long amount of time, over a couple weeks, they start to see the results. And, you know, I have people that are just, they rave about it. I mean, I get emails every day that are going like, you know, this is really helping me and it's getting me through my nights and it's getting me through my days. And they sign up for the, you know, the prescriptions where they get it every week. And, you know, just it is unbelievable. But, you know, like I said, it's not the cure all be all, but if you can take something and it's not addictive and, you know, it's naturally grown from the earth and you feel good about it when you have like a warm and fuzzy when you get those emails, you know?
I'm glad you mentioned about the CBD, how there's stuff out there that isn't real, and there's stuff out there, there's stuff that's diluted.
Yeah, there's people are putting just coconut oil in it, you know what I mean, or palm oil, and they're selling it as CBD, and people are like, well, this doesn't really work. But I guarantee you try something that has been sourced from a good company that has a reputable reputation with it, you're going to see a difference in it if you stick with it. People think, well, I'll take it one time and I'm supposed to be magically cured, but stick with something a week or so and give it a real shot. You know, I mean, it's changing people's lives, you know, and unfortunately, I'm not about government regulation, but that's one you know area where I think that there needs to be some regulations of
oversight,
what people what people, you know, they really have to have the analysis has to be what it is, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that people can't fake it. And but I do think it helps people. I do think that there's a lot of benefits out there to it, and there's a lot of things that, you know, not everything does work for everybody either. You know, everybody's receptors are different. Everybody binds differently in their brain of how these cannabinoids work and stuff like that. But for the majority of the masses, I think that it's a good thing, and it's you don't get the psychoactive side of it, and you know, it's something that people can really use to heal themselves and help themselves get through the day.
Yeah.
As we wrap things up here, give me one John Force story.
John Force story. So what stands out to me is, so I blew up, one of my blow-ups is really like big, you know, and the car steps up and, you know, I'm looking at asphalt coming over top of me. And so when my helmet sat down in my head, it like my head neck restraint did what it's supposed to, but my helmet rotated inside my head. And so I hit my eyebrows, you know, split my eyebrows open with my viewport. And so I got blood all over my visor and I'm on fire and big blow up and the car slapping the wall. And I get over and I get down to the other end and I ask the safety guys, like, man, am I still pretty? And he's like, you ain't pretty, but you're going to be all right, you know? And so they throw me in the ambulance. And so I'm sitting there kind of like, you know, just, you know, wiping my eyes open and still bleeding like crazy. You know, when you cut your head, it just bleeds, you know? And so Force opens up the ambulance door and he says, Hagan, you okay, kid? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm good. He's like, hey, you're new at this. He's like, you don't get much TV time. He's like, next time, roll around on the ground, act like you're on fire. He's like, it'll get more TV time. I was like, damn, dude. He's like, well, we're all showmen out here. We got to put on a show for these fans.
Oh, man.
Yes, that's one that sticks out with John for me.
He's a special character, man. We really enjoy having you on the show. You've got a shot at winning a championship here. Currently second in the points as you start the back half. Certainly clinched into the playoffs as well. You could win Tony Stewart a championship in his very first year as a team owner. So we wish you the best of luck, man. Thank you for coming on. It's been a great time,
thank you, guys.
Dude.
It's been great cutting up with y'all, having fun. And, yeah, we got to go out there and get this championship done. I know we're capable of it. Jimmy and those guys and Proc, they've been tough. I mean, they won 6 races. We won 3. And, you know, they've kind of figured out how to do it in the heat. But one thing I know is that Dickie knows how to do it in the cool. So I'm going to put my mouthpiece in, hang on, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
That's the Skinny, ladies and gentlemen, on Mr. Matt Hagan.